lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140.
So obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, you know, like he carries himself, you know, he's very solid right now. He's taller, you know, when you see him the face off. So he is technically bigger.
Hello, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, so let me look at this from Canelo's perspective and the experience of being in the ring with guys that are long and fast. What we've seen come from Canelo is the patience. Something that I know from my own personal experience, a guy that shows a lot of patience and you don't bother him by winning rounds. I don't think Canelo's gonna get bothered.
Andre Ward sends a strong and clear warning to Canelo Alvarez as he breaks down the looming danger posed by Terence Crawford. Ward explains that although Canelo remains one of the most skilled and intelligent fighters in the world, subtle signs of aging are beginning to appear. He points to a slightly lower punch output and reflexes that are no longer as razor-sharp as they once were. Ward acknowledges that Canelo is still superior to the majority of fighters today, and his craftiness keeps him at the elite level. However, he stresses that facing Crawford is an entirely different challenge. Ward compares Canelo's recent fights to a preseason scrimmage, warning that the real test comes when Crawford steps in with his precision, adaptability, and punching power that can flip a fight in an instant.
I'm really not moving up in weight. I'm just not having to boil myself down. So I think that Terence is going to be a lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140, and even quickly at 147. It got to the point where you start to cut into muscle mass. If you know anything about weight loss, at a certain point, that affects you in a boxing ring. Boxing, maybe wrestling, and MMA are the only sports where you have to tear yourself down for two months or 3 months, not just the training, but the weight loss. And then you have less than or right around 24 hours to put it back on, and then you need to go be great the next night. Everybody else gets to play or compete at their walking around weight or their playing weight. So I think that's gonna favor Terence Crawford, is not having to boil down 25 or 20. It's probably gonna be about 10 to 12.
What do you make of the state of Canelo right now? Because it does seem like he's received a little bit of heat, and I think the last performance, it was somewhat warranted because like the output was historically low. But to me, I felt like he knew. I mean, Terence was sitting there in the front row in Riyadh. Like, why would you even put yourself in risk when you've got this gigantic fight waiting for you? Like, just get the win over Skull, move on, get the belts, and you get the big fight. So how much do you chalk it up to, like, you know, the motivation just isn't there because the opponents aren't on his level, or maybe he's just getting older and, as you know, Father Time is undefeated?
Great question. I think a couple of things are true. I think number one, I think Father Time is catching up to Canelo, but it's subtle. A little less punch output than normal. Maybe the reflexes have weaned just a little bit, but he's still better than most fighters in the world today.
Brian Mendoza, a respected American junior middleweight boxer, gives the edge to Canelo Alvarez over Terence Crawford. According to Mendoza, the key difference is not only Canelo's size but also his vast experience. While he openly admits Crawford is an elite talent who has beaten world-class competition, Mendoza reminds fans that weight classes exist for a reason. He highlights that Canelo has spent the majority of his career at higher divisions, making him naturally more comfortable at 168 pounds. Mendoza praises Crawford's greatness but insists that Canelo's ring IQ, championship pedigree, and proven ability to handle larger opponents give him a distinct advantage in this matchup.
We gonna finish this thing strong. We're gonna get Brian Mendoza's perspective of what you think about this fight with Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford.
It's so, like, I feel like every day I'm almost kind of changing my opinion, but at the end of the day, I lean towards Canelo because of the size.
Yeah.
But I know the size thing isn't so, like, so obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, you know, like he carries himself, you know, he's very solid right now. He's taller, you know, when you see him the face off. So he is technically bigger. It's just the size. It's very different when you carry that weight in the ring. That's what you got to worry about performing with. And, you know, just based off kind of like the performance at 154, although it was against a very solid fighter with Madrimov, I don't know if he's going to be solid enough, you know, just used to carrying that type of weight around at 68. So that's that's the reason I lean towards Canelo, but the skill-wise, everything else is obviously still more on Bud's side.
Yeah.
So that's where my toss-up is. So I just lean towards Canelo because at the end of the day, you got to respect the weight classes.
We've been real heavy on this fight. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. And I feel like every time I've spoken about Canelo and Crawford, the only thing I'm talking about is Crawford. So I said, you know what, today I'm gonna flip the script. Today it's all about Canelo for me, and I might break your heart in the process. But I gotta keep it real. You're right, this is a 50-50 fight. This is a fight where, as I was telling the Uber driver this morning, these guys, we've seen them both make mistakes in the ring, but they've never cost them, right? This is the first fight that I believe they both have are gonna get in the ring where the small mistake is actually a big mistake against the opponent.
Jeff Horn, the former WBO welterweight champion famous for defeating Manny Pacquiao in 2017, issues his own warning to Canelo Alvarez. Horn believes Canelo's size, power, and experience could give him the upper hand early in the fight, allowing him to pressure Crawford and possibly force him onto the back foot. However, Horn highlights Crawford's gift for adjustments. Once Crawford settles into his rhythm, he becomes almost impossible to stop. His timing, precision, and ability to switch styles mid-fight make him one of the most dangerous finishers in the sport. Horn predicts that if Canelo fails to end things early, the later rounds will tilt heavily in Crawford's favor. He stresses that Crawford's stamina, counter-punching ability, and calmness under fire could overwhelm Canelo. Horn sides with Crawford, stating that although Canelo may control the early exchanges, Crawford's ability to systematically break down opponents makes him the likely victor if the fight goes the distance.
I favor Canelo. Not by a lot, but I do favor him. I just think that, you know, I think the Skull fight was just a bad style. And I think Canelo was like, why force the issue? You know what I mean? I'm up, this guy's running, I'm not gonna take a chance. So I think that it was that kind of fight for Canelo. But Madrimov did give Crawford problems, you know what I'm saying? And where I felt like, damn, at 54, he gave you problems. 68 is different, you know what I'm saying? So you going up 3 weight classes, because he was 47, 54, 60, 68, that's 3 weight classes. It's a major difference, man. And you know, one thing is like, right, so people are saying Canelo has problems with movers. But the reality is, Crawford's not a mover. Crawford's not a fighter that fights on his feet in the sense of boxing, kind of like, let's say, how a Pernell Whitaker would box or how Landy Lara would box. Crawford is a fighter that works on angles. He's not on his feet like Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? He's not that kind of boxer. So he's going to be there to get hit, you know? And I feel like that favors Canelo, because Canelo's going to hit you in the arms. He's going to hit you in the elbows. He's going to hit anything you give him, he's going to take it. You know what I mean? And now, is Crawford just going to switch his style and become a mover, moving up 3 weight classes? So now you're going to put all that weight on your legs, and you never boxed like that before. How can you do?
Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected trainers and analysts, pushes back strongly against critics who downplay Terence Crawford's move up in weight after his fight with Israel Madrimov at 154 pounds. Many have argued that Crawford struggled and won't be able to handle naturally bigger opponents like Canelo. Atlas dismisses that narrative as shallow. He explains that it was Crawford's first fight in a new weight class, and history has shown that even great fighters often need time to adjust. He points out that success at a higher weight is not only about carrying up skill but also about adapting timing, range, conditioning, and explosiveness while carrying extra pounds. Atlas praises Crawford's ability to handle Madrimov's physicality in his debut and insists that the fight already showcased his versatility. With that experience behind him, Atlas predicts Crawford will be sharper, smoother, and far more dangerous in his next outing, making him a very real threat to Canelo Alvarez.
So I avoided that. I would bring in specific sparring partners that A, knew how to be a sparring partner. Yeah, if I wanted something, I went over to him before the day started. Listen, I want you to do this. All right. I'm paying him. I have the right to do that. I want you to move more today. I want you to, you know what? I want you to press him a little. You know what? There was a fight I was getting a guy ready for, and I was worried about the first couple rounds. So I said, when the bell rings, I want you to rush out of the corner and go right after him. And I was, obviously I had my guy ready because we were getting ready for that kind of fight plan, for the possibility that the opponent would come out that way. So I wouldn't look to get a boots at us. I mean, nothing wrong with that's what they want. That's fine. But, and I get it, the style, the size, the length. I understand. It's not a bad pick from that point of view. But for me, again, I never go down that road because I got my guy getting ready for a fight. I don't want to leave it in the gym. I don't want to get into that kind of war in the gym. No, I want to have control of all aspects of what the hell I'm doing in the gym to get ready for one night. So no, I wouldn't do that. I'd get the right sparring partners. If I thought I had a guy, I get guys that my guy could work with, and if he was having an off day, he could kind of, have his way and do what he wanted with the guy. I'd have one of them. I'd probably have 3 guys, sometimes 4, depending on where we were at, with the calendar.
Crawford's win over Israel Madrimov was more than just another victory, it was history. By capturing the title at 154 pounds, he became a 4-division world champion and, more importantly, the first male boxer in the 4-belt era to become undisputed in 2 different weight classes. This achievement highlighted both his consistency and his dominance across multiple divisions. Against Madrimov, a strong and physical fighter, Crawford proved that his ring IQ, sharp timing, and defensive mastery remain intact even against naturally bigger opponents. Instead of being overpowered, he neutralized Madrimov with patience, accuracy, and adaptability. This fight reassured the boxing world that Crawford is not only surviving in higher divisions, he is thriving. It cemented his legacy as one of the most versatile and dangerous fighters of his generation.
And a lot has been taken out of you in the gym. You left it in the gym. And we heard that Jaron Boots Ennis was getting the best of Canelo Alvarez in his sparring session. That he possibly gave him a black eye. We saw the knot on his head. That was just a week ago. The fight is next week, next Saturday. So 3 weeks out from the fight, and you having this hard sparring session with Jaron Boots Ennis, who wants to prove a point. Leave no doubt. Jaron Ennis is going into those sparring sessions not just to be a sparring partner, but to gauge where he stands against a legend and a Hall of Famer and a superstar like Canelo Alvarez, to understand where he can get better and understand that he can actually compete on that level. So make no mistake about it, Jaron Boots Ennis wasn't in there to lay down. Now, he had a job to do. He was there for a specific reason, which is to give Canelo looks that Terence Crawford could possibly give him. But you best believe, in those sparring sessions, he gonna give what he have. He gonna test the waters to see where he stands, right? Not just to help Canelo, not just to be a dummy. There's a reason you bring in a high-profile fighter. And so Teddy Atlas believes this is a huge mistake on Canelo Alvarez's part, because now he has possibly left it in the gym. And now he got to go into battle with Terence Crawford. So it's like having 2 fights in a matter of 3 weeks. And your body's going to show the wear and tear.
Fernando Vargas Jr., son of the legendary Fernando Vargas and a rising fighter himself, gives his honest take favoring Terence Crawford. Vargas Jr. points out that Canelo's long and grueling career, nearly 70 professional fights, has inevitably taken a toll. He believes the years of battles have slightly diminished Canelo's reflexes, explosiveness, and even the sharpness of his power. While acknowledging Canelo is still an elite name, Vargas Jr. argues that Crawford has the fresher legs, sharper reflexes, and stronger hunger at this stage. He highlights that Crawford remains highly disciplined in fights with the energy of someone still chasing greatness. According to Vargas Jr., this difference in freshness and determination could be the deciding factor, tipping the fight in Crawford's favor against a more battle-worn Canelo.
Obviously, we know the one who has the ability to make adjustments is Crawford.
Yeah.
We have literally never ever seen Canelo do anything else. He's not gonna sit back and do and catch and counter. He's not gonna come up. He's not gonna do anything different. You know what I mean? So I think if Canelo starts to do this, but yes, he does have the ability to change some things.
Sean,
what about going back the other way?
What about the Canelo, the Austin Trout fight, the first Golovkin fight, who was
That's a Canelo years ago.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't seen that. Right.
Yeah, I don't remember those fights.
I mean, might as well talk about the 19-year-old, because it's like this Canelo now. It's just more like jab, jab, overhand.
It was those fights. So those fights were the experiences.
Zero chance he tries to bring any of that stuff out again.
I don't believe.
I don't think so either. But I'm just.
I don't think he has that gear anymore, personally.
I don't either.
Because of his age.
Him funny because he's an older
35, about 34, going on 35, or is 35.
But he has older because he's had like 60, 70
almost.
Fights
now.
Almost 70 fights.
He went pro 15, 14, something like that, right?
Yeah. See how protected you were? See how protected you were? So I think it's going to be a great fight. He thinks that it could be a dog fight. I don't think it's going to be a dog fight. Are you still feeling that way?
It could. I'm feeling less like that. I'm feeling less like that because I think Crawford is gonna is not coming in to fight like Caleb Plant or Billy Joe Saunders. I think Crawford's coming to counterpunch with bad intentions. But I think the way the fight becomes anticlimactic is if Crawford, the great Terence Crawford, feels something early in the fight that's different than anything he's ever felt in the lower weights.
The debate around Canelo Alvarez often becomes extreme, with critics dismissing his achievements by pointing to the quality of his opponents. However, objective analysis shows that even if Terence Crawford were to beat him, Canelo's legacy remains untouchable. He has consistently fought champions across multiple divisions and maintained dominance for more than a decade. While detractors argue some of his opponents were past their prime, it does not erase the fact that Canelo has built one of the most accomplished resumes of his era. If Crawford wins, it should elevate his own brilliance, not diminish Canelo's greatness.
And this isn't me glazing, it's just a fact. Canelo has fought the who's who, sure. Were all of them in their prime? No. But that's not his fault. He moved up in weight to fight some people. He sought out difficult opponents and matchups. You know, the same way we're like, oh, Floyd didn't necessarily fight some of the best names in his resume at the best time in their career. Not his fault. Floyd went up and sought people out. So Canelo's sitting there like, yeah, I don't give a shit. And he's pretty much the only guy that can really say that right.
I feel I'm the best, and that's it. I don't focus on if the people say or put me in the first position, I'm the best. I feel I'm the best. I'm doing because I love boxing.
I call Canelo out because, like I said, he the last great fighter amongst the era that surpassed us. This is my mega fight. This is my moment.
You didn't have much interest in this Crawford fight. You were saying that there wasn't much in it for you, and you pointed out that people will say that he was too small. What changed?
I think he's one of the best fighters for more fun. No, he accomplished a lot of things too. Mexican with the American fighter is always big.
When he fights you at Allegiant Stadium,
Canelo's like, I knew the money was crazy. That's why he's like, yeah, I knew that. The Mexican fighter versus the American fighter. Canelo can draw Allegiant Stadium. That's what it is. I mean, yes, there's the element of greatness in.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for more updates and breakdowns. Until next time.